Perhaps more alarmingly, the American novelist John Bart published The Literature of Exhaustion in the Atlantic Monthly, in which he seemed to many readers to suggest that the novel was on its deathbed. What he in fact argued was that the novel as we had known it was pretty largely played out, the exhaustion of the essay's title referring to exhausted possibilities. Fiction, he suggested, was going to have to find something new to do in order to reinvigorate itself. There was a lot of talk of the death of old ways in 1967, a lot of emphasis on newness, its signature event being the accumulation of outrageous humanity around the intersection of Haight and Ashbury Streets in San Francisco. What Bart seemed not to know, although with him a lot of seeming is disingenuous, was that help was on the way. That same year, a novel was being published by a writer in Colombia, and another was being composed by a writer in England, and they would offer ways forward from the apparent impasse. The English novelist John Fowles was composing The French Lieutenant's Woman, possibly the first major commercial novel to seriously address changes in the landscape of fictional theory. At the beginning of chapter 13, he says of his faux historical novel that it cannot be a conventional Victorian novel, despite its outward appearance as such, because I live in the age of Alain Robbe-Grillet and Roland Barthes. Instead, the novel teases readers with Victorian characters and settings, even as it reminds them that it is a fictional 20th century work that is merely employing Victorian conventions for its own ends. The literary gamesmanship did not harm sales. The French Lieutenant's Woman was the best-selling novel in America in 1969. The Colombian novel was, of course, Gabriel Garcia Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude, which would appear in English 3 years later. The solution it offered was not one of metafictional play, but of the wild eruption of the fabulous amidst the commonplace, what would become known as magic realism. These works and writers changed everything, so much so that Barthes returned to the Atlantic in 1979 with an essay called The Literature of Replenishment, in which he admitted things had changed more in a dozen years than he could have foreseen, and that maybe, just maybe, this novel thing did have a future. He cites Garcia Marquez and Italo Calvino in particular as reinvigorating the form. So what does it mean to say that they changed everything? Did everyone begin copying what they did? No, even they didn't copy what they did. There is only one 100 Years of Solitude, and even Garcia Marquez can't write a second one. But those novels showed possibilities in the form that had not been tried in quite the same way before. Things a writer might do with fiction that would be sufficiently new and interesting to keep readers hanging around. I believe, moreover, that the essays and the novels in question show something else, the history of the genre. The novel is always dying, always running out of steam, and always being renewed, reinvented. We might say, following the philosopher Heraclitus, one cannot step in the same novel twice. To stay put is to stagnate. Even those novelists we value for their sameness, Charles Dickens, George Eliot, Ernest Hemingway, are constantly changing and growing. They move, if only slightly, from one novel to the next. They set themselves new challenges. Those who stand pat soon seem stale, flat, and unprofitable. As it is with individual writers, so it is with the form itself. The movement is neither inevitably forward nor backward. Progress, in matters literary, is chiefly an illusion. But movement there is, and movement there must be. In a genre called novel, readers have some right to expect novelty. That's only fair, isn't it? A friend of mine, a colleague in another discipline, noted the very slight change between the previous book's title and this one, and asked, "So how are novels different from literature?" It's an excellent question, one that the literature priesthood would never think to ask, but that lay people will come up with right off. I was reminded of the old syllogism, "All pigs are animals, but not all animals are pigs." We can say roughly the same thing in literary terms by substituting novels for pigs and literature for animals. Are all novels literature? We could get some disagreement here from inside and outside the